afternoon. It's another edition of your favorite current affairs program, 60 Minutes Nigeria. My name is Egosa Agbalao, your anchor on the show. On today's program, we will be taking a look at national issues, especially as Nigerians prepare for the all-important forthcoming 2019 general elections, where, of course, the presidential election will be decided, some governorship elections, National Assembly elections. Every Nigerian is just looking forward to the destiny of this country, which of course will be determined by the voters in 2019. There is an issue regarding to the 2019 election that we'll be looking at, and that has to do with the internal security of Nigeria and of course the 2019 general election. Another mind-turbing and mind-disturbing issue has to do with recent reports on the social media and of course some media organizations in Nigeria that has to do with the cloning of Mr. President. The media was awash with the news of one Jubreen from Sudan as the double or the cloning of President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, Nigerians were relieved when, of course, in Poland, President Muhammadu Buhari addressed Nigerians who asking the question that he needed to clear the air on the issue, and he said he is the same President Muhammadu Buhari, or otherwise same General Muhammadu Buhari retired, but he doesn't want to be referred to as General. Well, to join me dissect these issues on the program today, I have very eminent personalities with me. I have Comrade Godwin Irahon, a very seasoned politician, with us. Nice to have you on the show.
Bless you.
I also have with us the President Unity in Democracy, a project group that advocates for good governance in Nigeria, a very seasoned politician as well, talking about Eyalwa Andrew. Nice to have you on the show.
Good afternoon, viewers.
We have a legal practitioner in our midst, and of course, a law lecturer, Dr. Job Ojo. Nice to have you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, viewers. Coming of the season.
And we have Mr. Isaac Irabo, a seasoned politician, a media consultant, with us on the show. Nice to have you, sir.
A pleasure.
Okay, so the stage is set, and we just started with that issue that has to do with the cloning of President Muhammadu Buhari, which has been debunked, refuted by the president himself. We'll just get started with Comrade Godwin Irahon. You've been a friend of Muhammadu Buhari from the days when he wasn't in the APC. Today, the news of the cloning of the president. How did you take it? Let's start from there.
Well, first of all, let me correct it. The alleged cloning.
Okay.
Media house.
Yes.
When I took it, I just felt disturbed at the level to which our politics have degenerated. Because even as I came in
Yes.
a few minutes ago, realizing that I haven't been here for about 6 months now for reasons,
Yes.
would it have been possible to say that Congress Godwin Irahon was cloned somewhere, represented by somebody from Ghana, and then I come in, I get familiar with all of you, with the studio, and then everybody around and all that, as it has always been. You know, when somebody makes such allegation, thinking that it's undoing the person against whom the allegation is being made, they will not do that it's unfairly the Almighty God. No man, no matter how brilliant he is, can duplicate a human being. It's not possible. And therefore, the allegation is part of the mischief that has bedeviled our own politics. And I congratulate President Buhari for even bothering to respond to it, because to me, it didn't make sense from the beginning to say that somebody was cloned. All of us here have featured here one time or the other, and we get familiar. You expect that Vice President Sibajo, to whom he transmitted full presidential power before he left, will wait for a Sudanese to come and impersonate his own president and take order from him when he was in charge before the arrival of the president. And it just that many people wish that the president had died in that ailment that they really suffered. That they came back rejuvenated, renewed entire is something that is disturbing those who wish their opponent dead. And I don't think it's godly enough at all.
Okay, let's get the thoughts of Andrew.
Well, I would say the thought of anybody to think that President Muhammadu Buhari is cloned is bizarre and idiotic. For anybody to insinuate that President Buhari was cloned or is an imposter. For God's sake, that is the highest level of politics of calumny. Shouldn't have gotten this far. Is it that if somebody is sick, you go to the hospital, is it not to recuperate and come back better? Is it for the person to die and you are expecting the corpse? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And if you look at the whole scenario, let me tell you people, even if Buhari is dead, it is the British people, it is BBC that will first of all flash it as breaking news. Who is going? You think the British will collaborate with Nigerians to say, okay, let us hide it, let us bring Jubilee and all those nonsense trash? Like what he said, I have to appreciate President Muhammadu Buhari for being magnanimous to say, okay, let me answer, because these are issues that are not supposed to be deliberated. It's distraction. Nnamdi Kanu started this rumor, and that boy had been looking for cheap relevance. He did it when he was trying to use IPOP to gain relevance and all that, and before he knew it, he ran. Somebody that is a freedom fighter, you signed death, either you win or you lose, and it has to amount to death. He's supposed to wait, but he made sure most of his people died. And he ran for 1 year, they didn't hear from him, only for him to resurface with this fake rumor that President Muhammadu Buhari is cloned. Let me tell you, assuming like they said that President Muhammadu Buhari is cloned, fine. 3 years plus now, the clone supposed Muhammadu Buhari has been able to manage the situation for APC for these 4 years. Then the same Jubilee from Sudan want to recontest again for another 4 years in a country that is not his. I can't understand. I mean, if you are politicking or trying to, criticize, let it be constructive criticism. Other parties should know how to campaign and see if they can win, not this campaign of calumny. That's the height of acrimony. I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it at all. Nigeria should change their perception of doing things. It's not about death. The provision is there. The president is supposed to last for 4 years, then if you win, you recontest again. What of countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, when their president has been there for the past 36 years, and he's still there? Buhari has just done 3.5 years, and there's room for election. If you want him out, you go, politics constructively, then if you win, you take over from him. Instead of this, you must die, you must leave. No. I didn't work.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. We'll get back to you. Let's get a thought of Dr. Joe Bodia. Yes.
Thank you very much, Gosa. You said so much. I'm almost speechless. Very quite on
okay. Yes.
But I want to look from a different perspective. I think I want to say that actually politicians actually involved have not really made so much issue about this impostor or cloning. The politicians that I know, the political parties that are actually on the field. I think with all due respect, those who have made so much about this are persons in the social media, the youth mainly, our youth that we look up to. Maybe they are still angry with the man for calling them lazy and jobless. I think so. I think it is a get back for them, because these things are watched in the social media. Even the mainstream media hardly brings it to the fore, as you would expect. Not in the fore, because so tangential, so insulting, and so revolting, But just as some key persons who I think, with due respect, have lost their bearing, with all due respect, I'm sure I don't want to mention names, have taken to the social media by taking to a higher level. So when they speak, it tends to lead credence to this kind of rumor mongering and campaign of calumny. Those are the persons that actually have added pep to this nonsensical storyline. Be that as it may, I think it reflects the level of intellect we have in this country, how far we have sunk so low, like a comrade has said, we sunk to the highest level. That in a country where we have so many challenges, security challenges, health challenges, economic challenges, if somebody picks on this kind of issue that you associate with a science fiction film, maybe you watch too much of science fiction. Some of us watched Space 1999, those when we were growing up. That's 20 years ago. We not thought 1999 would come when we were watching those things.
Yes.
Somebody has watched too much, or they watched too much of this thing they watch, the recent one, I don't know what they call them. I think it's got into their head that they just sell the dummy. And then, like you said, one clown who claims to be a freedom fighter decides to denigrate his office of the president. Because like I've said elsewhere, you denigrate not the man, Buhari himself, is the office of the president, a constitutionally recognized office. Denigrate that office before our very eyes in this country and before the international community. Because it got to the point that you saw when we got to Poland, the posters on white men were looking at him to see if he's actually Jubilee and all that. You see, it is the country we are denigrating. Because for goodness sake, this man will live there, like we said, maybe next year, another 4 years. We've had presidents before. This country is about 58 years old. They will come and go. So if you think you are denigrating Buhari because you want to go there, that same seat you are going to occupy it. Now you saw the news I watched, and people are now saying this one is cloned. Everybody like, Oga said he may have been cloned. I may be cloned too. I may have an imposter. I may have a look-alike. But it's so childish. It's so pedestrian. And I think that the less we give it hype, the better for those who let us focus on some more serious issues.
Okay, we'll get the thought of Isaac Irabo. You are a media consultant, so have you come across things like this, or did it take you by surprise?
Well, it didn't surprise me because our people have become very shallow in knowledge. Shallow. The word clone, first and foremost, you take the word, the etymology of the word, clone. What is cloning? When you take, like human cloning, you take stem cells. It's a scientific process that doesn't go through a reproductive process. So, and if you're going to clone, they are allowed for animals. I think the World Health Organization or the UN forbade it when the science was discovered, that you don't clone human beings in the first place. The technology is available, but you don't do it. So people, you can do animals. Usually when there's a famine in a country or you want to create more animals, animal husbandry, and you can clone. So we have more meat, more sheep in South Africa and Germany and so many other countries, but not really human beings. So, but there is a look-alike. A look-alike is not cloning at all. You have a look-alike, you have a second double. Two people who look very much alike. Some people say, even scientifically, that God created or creates persons in doubles. Maybe not in the same community, a faraway country. I was in New York one day on Fordham Road. It was a pub. I went to get something to eat in the afternoon, and I saw a good friend of mine here who went to my college here having a drink. I thought I saw him. I saw someone just like him, and I couldn't wait. I just went and grabbed him, only to find out the way he reacted. Strange. If it were my friend, you're sure we would have really embraced. Yeah. But that didn't happen. So you have such lookalikes. And it's also available in history. Countries during war, First and Second Wars, and states, through their intelligence services, create that situation. It's not only Buhari, they've spoken about. Obasanjo also had, or they also, not a clone, but it's a look-alike. They're available. Of course, you have twin brothers or sisters, what you call them, the identical twins. So that's probably what they want to talk about. And I just, like you said, it's just a gimmick. Especially in political times, many things are done to fight the opponent. So that's the way I see it. I don't want to go into the politics of it, but just the technical part of it. And we should also educate ourselves. Let us now tell the watching public that cloning is not allowed for man. It's against the World Health Organization ethos and the UN. You can clone animals from stem cells. Okay. You grow them, and you don't start doing a man for 5-6 years, as I've heard. No, they grow when you are raising maybe a sheep or a cow. They are done the same time and they grow to the same age.
Okay. Now, thank you, Mr. Irabor. But before we'll let you go on that issue, no matter what has happened, some persons are of the opinion that why should the president be reacting outside the shores of the country to these issues?
Well, it's his own, I just think it's his own style. Different presidents have their own styles. But all the same, charity should begin at home. But, you know, I think the rumor was becoming so intense. And at some point, he had to react. But we've seen presidents here and there raising issues outside the Chatham House thing. Is it Jonathan or the other? It's happened before, you know. It's not the best. Do your best for your people at home. But if situation warrants it, it is not forbidden.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll get the thought of Dr. John.
This reaction.
Yes.
I think for me, it may have been that it was when he got to the outside shores or Poland as it were, that it dawned on him that it's a serious issue. I'm sure. Was even asked. I'm sure within this context here, he would probably have laughed over it because this is a man who has a lot of issues on his mind. And he has advisors to me, advised him not to cause leak credence. Because when you comment, you're leak credence to such a thing. Like somebody saying that I have two heads, one I don't have two heads. I just ignore them, like you see them as being stupid. I think what got him there was because he was not outside the shores, and for you to have gotten that far, and for his Nigerians they wanted to ask him. And of course, he did not really have that interface with them over there. So he just feels like when they said he called Nigerian lazy and of course he has an interface with the Nigerian community over there. At that point, he relaxes with them, you know, like he's talking to his brothers now outside the shore. You know, when you're outside the country, the affinity is always stronger than when you are here. So, because at least said, it should begin at home. We tend to value ourselves more when we are outside there than when we are here. I think that may also have played out.
Okay, I can see that comrade is itching to make a remark. Yes.
He also said that until he was confronted by somebody, I didn't see any need
for him to have responded. Okay.
To react to something.
Yeah.
Like my brother
Andrew.
Said,
okay.
If the look-alike that you met, whom you thought was your old friend, you saw the way he reacted.
Yes, exactly.
Is there how many years would it have taken to tutor that person to begin to behave like, to get to know you, and begin to behave like the other person?
And to deceive your wife and family that is your friend.
So when they were saying that, president should have reacted, I believe that seeing how foolish it wasn't something that the president should have bothered himself about. And it also gives the impression that some people are not majority of people are not mentally balanced to begin to believe such things, that as I'm here now, I'm no longer it's somebody else from Calabar that was now brought here that is fitting into, it doesn't make sense. I realize that the president needed not to even react to it until he was confronted. Nobody, no journalist here even confronted him. If they had confronted him and he said no comment, then you would blame him. But it's not something that the government would have issued statement.
But that's a press
okay, let's get a thought of Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, I read in the papers that about 40 million Nigerians are mad. I was doubting it. I said, how can 40 million Nigerians be mad? But I'm beginning to reason
Okay, psychiatric problem with me.
yeah.
Mental illness.
That figure is frightening. That figure is very frightening.
Because if you see the way Nigerians behave, it's shocking.
Believable.
Wherever the president decides to react to issues does not matter, depending on the circumstance. Especially when he reacted in Poland, in front of Nigerians. It's like he's still in Nigeria. So whether if it was during the G20 meeting that he was asked, and he now answered, we can, claim, make blames that, oh, he did not answer us, he went to answer the international community. But it's still the same forum of Nigerians that asked, and he answered them. And let me tell you, Buhari, that I know, the president, he has heard all this rumor before now, but he didn't want to say anything. And facing those Nigerians in Poland, before they ask him any questions, he knows the kind of questions they are going to ask. They've already told him. And he said, they should let them ask, and I will answer. That was like joking. If you watch the scene, he was joking throughout. He's like I said, he's magnanimous enough to answer such trivial matters. It just showed the height of gullibility and lack of exposure of our people. So I think we should desist from such.
Let me also add, sorry to bring it back, because since I want to add a legal perspective. It shows that we have enough freedom of expression in this country. Those who talk about dictatorship, government, high-handedness, for you to call your president a clone person or an impostor Jibril from Sudan and get away with it as we speak now, even though in democracy, shows the high level of freedom of expression, the high level of tolerance this government has for people, except maybe when it comes to corruption cases. That's where he may be to be high-handed. But when it comes to that, he laughs over it. You can't try that in some other countries that are democratic countries. I speak to you. Tell Donald Trump, don't you respect that he's a clone person? I'm sure there'll be repercussions.
What happened to the Saudi Arabia journalist?
So that's not good.
When he was criticizing the government. He was killed.
But now that the head of state is dead, when he was alive.
That was what killed him. Just because of that alone.
But that has not been established. Just allegations. Yes. Allegations.
They came up with their findings. But it's not for you. So believe.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you. We'll look at another issue, and that is very, very important to us. Internal security. You must have heard of the insurgency, the Metele killings, the Boko Haram menace, and to our surprise, the army just recently informed Nigerians that the $1 billion US which ought to have been released for the purchase of military equipment, ammunition, arms, that they are yet to receive it. And a lot has been happening. The Chief of Army Staff has been mandated by the Minister of Defense to remain in the north, to relocate to the northeast because of these terrorist activities, this insurgency, the killings of Nigerian troops. Now, 2019 is around the corner. How can you link this? You think the government is doing enough to ensure internal security, to ensure that actually in 2019 there will be general election? We'll start with Godwin Erao.
Well, in the first place, in a country as volatile as Nigeria,
yes,
where you have insurgency for such a long time, government can hardly do enough. That is to say, no matter how much government try, it will be difficult for the public to agree that the government has tried, because the Boko Haram terrorism, they're not just local forces, they are supported by external forces, and therefore they have even entrenched themselves before the current government came in. So I believe that government is trying enough, and they are doing what they ought to do. But I believe that whatever they have done, there's no how strong whatever they are doing could be that it cannot be improved upon. I believe that government should do much more than it is doing now. I also believe that there is need now for the federal government to collaborate with our neighboring countries in that area, like Nigeria, Chad, and so that let's see how they can hem them in. All of them come in, this one fighting from this angle, the other one fighting from there. Because I think people wondering when you talk about over 100 people kidnapped and they are missing and they are kept somewhere, you begin to wonder, like in this Edo state, for example, is it possible to say that you kept 100 people in a bush for a whole year and we are looking for such persons, we cannot find them, not even scientifically and all that. So those are challenges that are even beyond Nigeria. I believe that all the other countries around us should be able to get it. I also believe that even the Western world, by now, also have been able to use their satellite to locate some of these, where these insurgents are really operating and all that, so that they can be properly handled.
Okay. Andrew?
Well, 2019 is around the corner, and you know, elections like this, we need a free atmosphere to be able to get the election done properly and well. But to me, to be candid, the situation in Nigeria now is somehow, the internal security is, there's so much challenges. Just a few weeks ago, you see the way they are not killing soldiers. Actually, we in the South, we are kind of free. But an average Nigerian, to me, Nigeria is at war as we speak. Yes, because compared to, you know, for the fact that it's not happening in the South, we think there's no war. There's war in Nigeria. Just because of the size of the country, we are not feeling it. You can imagine a situation whereby places like Benue, Adamawa, those terrorist-prone areas are being harassed, people are leaving their houses, and these are the places they are supposed to conduct election. So tell me on that day, would the people come out to vote? That's another big question. Because if the situation persists as it is now, I'm afraid, unless they're going to bring fictitious results from that end, because you cannot tell me places like Benue, Adamawa, you start giving me 2 million votes and all that. When the people in that town, they are no more living there, they ran for their lives, then how did you get this vote? So there's still time though. The federal government should do something and see if they can stabilize those prone areas so that the election will be done in a very good atmosphere, so that Nigeria should actually vote for their choice and you know, make things good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, this issue has is a recurring decimal in this program, and so it's quite saddening. I want to take off from the point that the 1 billion naira has not been released or officially released. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, the army has officially confirmed that they are yet to receive the money.
It's quite disheartening because that money is meant to fight insurgency, security, and it's tied to some level of exigency. But that was why the presidency did not need to wait didn't wait then for the National Assembly to approve before they went ahead to approve the sum. And when the issue of you didn't have my approval, you don't have the right, and the government said this money was needed to purchase this equipment, it was urgent before they now went ahead and got the approval. So such monies I think ought to have been released on time without the usual bureaucracy or bottlenecks in administration. So at whose end is the money being held now? That needs to be found out. Thank God the House of Rep is going to look into that. We need to probe that. Because from the grapevine, not official now, most of these attacks on our military, the weakening of the resurgence of the Boko Haram and other illicit group is because they do not have the kind of resistance or firepower that they ought to have from the Nigerian army or Nigerian security forces. They complain about hardware not being up to date, don't have the right equipment and all that. Some of these equipments are not top notch. But these other chaps from the insurgents, they seem to have more effective equipment because they're being sponsored by ISIS and some of these funny groups that have decided to pitch their tents in West Africa and then terrorize the whole of this our hub, Nigeria, Chad, and even Cameroon. So they've left other areas, they'll be forced out of where they are in Libya and other areas where they used to hold strong. The Americans have dislodged them. I think what I see that they are now coming to the Maghreb towards our own end. So these are not even Nigerians per se, because if you look at that Metele attack, the feelers we have that they're not many Nigerians. Some of them appear to be foreigners. So it's not a question of Boko Haram.
No, Nigerian Army also confirmed that Boko Haram terrorist group make use of drones, make use of foreign fighters. They made it in the public domain now.
So they don't have an international flavor to the fight against Nigeria in quotes now. And so what it means is that we must now collaborate with the international body like we said. We have a regional force, but it's not strong enough. Regional force is we need the Kumok. So if you bring Chadian soldiers, Cameroon soldiers, and Nigerian soldiers, they will not do much. We need an intervention force if it is beyond the regional force. It shouldn't be seen now as just a Nigerian problem. But what I don't understand is why the international forces are paying lip service to this, because the fighters, the equipment are coming from the foreign countries. Where are they getting the drones from? Where are they getting these RPGs from? That are even of higher grade, where allegedly or supposedly, than that of Nigeria. Because you can always tell me that the Nigerian soldier that is well trained, knowing what they go through. The Nigerian soldier is still one of the best in the world. When they go for peace-keeping forces, and then they see excel. So you excel on ragtag soldiers who swore on some religious belief that they will go to heaven after killing people, that they will now become so good that they can annihilate Nigerian soldiers as they claim killed 43 soldiers. Not true, because they have more equipment that they can use to overwhelm Nigerian army. And then there's another point I have mentioned elsewhere. And I say there's some element of sabotage. I expect that the military, through their secret service, because Nigerian army is not just an army of combatants, it's an army of intellectuals, army of intelligence officers.
They have intelligence units in the army,
So you must find out, check your house. Who are those leaking information? Who are those giving that information? Who are those setting their fellow soldiers up? It happened before. People were court-martialed. People are asked to go to the war front, material not given. People are asked to relocate, deploy soldiers. Before they get there, they run into ambush. How does it happen? Who gives the information? Who tells them that the Air Force is coming, that they should run? Who tells them that these troops are withdrawn from this place, they are not vulnerable? Who tells them all that? So these are issues that should be looked into. We shouldn't be shy of saying this. Before we go to the issue of the politics and other issues, the Nigerian army must, and that is why I sit here today and I say that it is high time that the service chiefs should be changed. It's not pretend about these things. It's a career position for goodness sake. I know there are military men who are willing, who are strong enough, who see the rot, they cannot say anything because they say they'll be court-martialed. So if you don't have a winning team, it's like football. If you have a match and your captain is not doing well, you pull him out to the dressing room and let somebody take over. We have been having these insurgents going on, technically defeated up and down. When I heard about that killing Metele, it was disheartening. And I don't think a sitting chief of army staff should remain on seat 1 minute after that attack. Should have resigned.
Thank you very much.
Should have resigned. So that should be the change in service chiefs.
Okay. Mr. Ezekiel, yes.
Well, you see, the way I see it, there is so much insecurity in our country because there is so much poverty in our country. It's not even a matter of religion. I was in Adamawa last year. I didn't have too much problem going because I went by road through Abuja, through Bauchi. But on my way back, it was like hell. Every 10 or less kilometers, you had the customs, the military, most of these and you had to show your passport, identification card and all that. I really never felt I was in Nigeria. Through Taraba, Benue, through to Anambra. So you see, I found out, even while I was in Yola, that there was so much dissatisfaction. Is it because you were Fulani or... They have a lot of ethnicities there that we don't even know. Well, we just say they are all Hausa people. Average Believers, they are Hausa, you know. But they're different people. And many of them are collaborating. That's the point. I'm trying to elucidate. They are, you know, they have their religious sect, they are Nigerians, because these guys, these Nigerians, don't have food, they don't have money, they don't have this, that, and that. They collude with these Boko Haram people. And they are funding ISIS, according to this gentleman. Funding, they are bringing money, giving them food, they live in their community. Some of them are so convinced that the ISIS, they believe more in them than believe in us. Money comes from the central government of Nigeria, through the state to the local government. But the money is not spent not to refurbish the community, not to even create more agriculture, and of course, you know, there is more agriculture in the north. Yeah, but the Dangote places, they are all those big ones, you know. And those other little people. People are still begging all over the place. People are not going to school. You see, these are the areas, because Buhari came into office with pomp and pageantry. He said, I'm for all of us, I'm for nobody. I'm for nobody, I mean you guys. And he was ready to really attend to this so-called crisis situation. It's a shame that we in Nigeria, we do not have food to eat. You see, when a man is hungry, he can do a lot of things. Not even the educated, even these illiterate people. You can do anything. You have, you see our children on the streets. Anything. Once you buy jeans, it doesn't matter where the money comes from. It's the same. Yes. It's the same that goes around the whole country.
So we are looking at more of the poverty in the land.
Yes, there is.
As fueling this insecurity.
Yes, it's fueling the insecurity. Because the people cannot afford, even, around us. So our governors, our local government leaders, it's not that the country is poor. We're not poor. We're a very, very rich country. But there's no proper devolution of the means of livelihood to our people.
You have come to restructuring. Welcome with Godwin Irahan. Recently, Mr. President approved increase in salaries of the police and also the military, and there have been recent promotions in the military. Don't you think the government is in the right direction in terms of ensuring internal security with these new measures?
Well, let me also add that even the general minimum wage, the president has approved as requested. The governors some of the governors are saying now that, they cannot afford, they cannot do this.
No, but the presidency has not clarified here on that the president has really approved. They are still meeting. Yes, there's no public confirmation on that. Yes.
I'm saying that yes, is when you do everything possible to enhance the welfare of the workforce, it also, particularly within the military and the police, it helps to at least boost up the morale.
Okay.
And then fully empower those who are supposed to manage internal security. But most importantly, at the point already raised by my colleague Isaac Apple, the level of poverty in the land is very, very, very important. In the sense that no matter how equipped the military or the police are, when the majority are frustrated or they are aggrieved, they can always overwhelm the security forces. More so that Nigerians are among the most greedy people on earth. You find those who have, they just want to continue to accumulate primitively. That's why you can find that somebody can afford to steal 1 billion naira. And when somebody can, we traced $1 billion to somebody else, and there's no road to his village. Even his father's house in the village is not bed and all that. And then the people around him, they are suffering. So when you have such, there is no way you will not have a revolt around him. It's a kind of revolt by the aggrieved, the hungry elements inside, the masses against those who have. But unfortunately, because those who have are the ones who also have what it takes to organize security around themselves, the fellow poor people, fellow hungry people become the victims and casualties of these reactions and revolution in most cases. So that's the problem we have. So I believe that while we talk to government, we also need to talk to our people.
Okay.
Talking to government can never be enough, but we also need to talk to our people on the need to be liberal in their lifestyle. Don't just believe that if you have somebody, for example, who went to the House Assembly from one room, just one or two rooms.
Yes.
To duplexes.
Yes.
Is not just as
Mansions.
He's now having mansions here and there.
Yes.
And then he's forgotten about how he came there,
Yes.
whose fault he came there. There is no way that there will be all those things contribute to the threat to internal security, because everybody is aggrieved. Nobody wants to save the society.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Andrew?
Yeah, one of the causes of this internal security we're talking about is we have to look at our judicial system. Our judicial system is very, very weak. To me, it encourages crime. You know, most times you see some hardened criminals, like the other day, hundreds of Boko Haram were caught and sentenced. But we discovered that they were later released into the society back again to continue their crime.
No, that's not correct. We understand that some of them were taken through reorientation. You know, so that they can drop their radical beliefs. That's what the government told us. And after that period, before they allowed them, so they were integrated to society.
A crime is a crime.
Okay.
What do you mean by orientation?
Yes.
There's no need for that. You've committed a crime, you've held a gun, and there are penalties for such.
Be punished.
Follow the law.
Be punishment before.
When you talk about rehabilitation.
Yes.
When you talk about rehabilitation, talk about the Niger Delta Avengers. Those youth that are
Okay, the militants.
The militants. Those are the kind of people you say you want to give orientation, you want to rehabilitate.
They were granted amnesty.
And they have
Fine.
clear cases.
They have clear case, not somebody that carried a gun, explosive to bomb here, bomb there. You are trying to give them your orientation. No. I mean, that's the wrong idea. And again, if you look at it, Nigerians, like what he said, Nigerians are one of the most richest countries in the world. Sorry, but we are the poorest.
I understand that everyone referring to Nigeria as the capital of poverty.
I mean, that we are taking India in child maternity, whatever. It's only in Nigeria you will bust a house, you see $1 billion cash. In a Nigerian house. The Americans that are using these dollars, they don't get it like Nigerians do. $1 billion cash. Until, as we're talking, we don't know who owns it and where the money has gone to.
Yes, it's a terrible situation.
You think these youths, they are trying to, that are going into crime, they try to, take their own pounds of flesh back in a different dimension. They are trying to balance the whole thing. That's why you see, these days in Nigeria, when you are walking, you look back, you look front, you are always careful because you don't know who's behind you. I mean, it's so disheartening that the security situation in Nigeria is so bad. It's so bad. I don't know how we are going to remedy the situation because it's getting worse. But I think the government has a role to play. The greed in most of our politicians these days is getting alarming. Like he said, you are a lawmaker. Your duty to go and make law to improve the lives of the citizens, not to amass wealth. The money they use they flaunt this wealth is constituency development money. It's true. Go and develop your constituency. Go and give the people, let them enjoy the dividends of democracy.
Democracy.
Before you know it, you go and buy houses in Dubai. in London, and in fact, then, like he said, when you have so many Nigerians that are not going to school, so some are not paying school fees, some don't even have jobs. That $1 billion that is in the houses of Nigeria can open a factory where people will be employed. The crime rate will reduce at least. What brings about crime? Is it not unemployment?
Sure.
If everybody is living well, nobody will want to go into crime. If you are living well, I'm living well, everybody is fine, we'll be happy with each other.
Yeah.
But when there's no job, and let me tell you, if you lived the life of Jumbo, and Nigeria is gradually getting to that that level where somebody will just knock on your door,
Yes.
give me food.
Yes.
I heard you were cooking just now, I heard the aroma. I'm
You smell the aroma.
bring it out, or something will happen.
Yes,
Bring
right.
it to that level.
Yes.
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 If you've experienced life of jungle, I know what I'm saying. You bring it out, we must eat. Call the police, let the police come.
Police is also hungry.
Hungry, everybody is hungry. It will get to that level. So
We don't hope it doesn't get to that level.
But the rate we're going,
Better than armed robbery.
I also have kidnapping and all that.
yes, now bring it, let us eat.
If that's
So
Let's
nobody will
the
see that
aroma of your
anything evil. This man came to harass me. Why? He said I should bring my food to eat. Give him food now.
you'll be happy to
So
give food to
it
eat.
will get to that level. It doesn't get to that.
Yeah.
But with the situation is now, my brother, Nigeria is. I don't know.
Dr. Job, you are a legal practitioner. Is there a threat to 2019 because of these internal security issues?
Well, I wouldn't say so. I don't think there's a threat because comparatively, we had more insurgents, we had more violence in 2015. That's the truth. And yet elections went on smoothly, quotes, save for some areas in Borno State. Borno then had ceded almost half of their local government area, if not more, to the Boko Haram terrorists. So I think Nigeria is a little bit more stable than that. I don't see any threat to our elections, really, apart from the electoral offenses itself that can be committed by the politicians themselves. The kidnappers, the robbers, and the during election period, they also have their focus. They want to also politic too. So there'll be less of kidnapping, less of armed robbery and all that. The boys, the coast now may be too engaged for that. So the people who will be threatened are the politicians themselves because of their desperation. So that is the only threat we have. But in terms of the general outlook of our security outlook now, I think we had worse situation in 2015. But I just want to say that we're okay with what we have. It's very, very bad, like they've all happened. It's bad. Government need to do something. But let me not go back to the point you raised, the issue of the increment in salaries for the police officers. And I think it's a welcome development. It's supposed to be a morale booster, like Comrade has said. But we just hope that the average greed, which you mentioned of the Nigerians, some of us, not all of us though, will not also set in because some of them will still be compromised because they still want more. If you increase the monthly salary from 100,000 naira to $500,000 a month, that is when you realize you can drive a car of 5 million.
exactly.
And you cannot, the car of 5 million, you have to save that salary for another 1 or 2 years. So
Yes.
you still be greedy. You marry more wives and probably where he's staying at Ubowo or wherever.
It's not big enough.
to Ubo now. So it's still about Nigeria trying to be content with what you have.
Yes.
Like the average American, average Briton, so content with his life. He may not have a house, but he has his mortgage of 2 rooms. He's okay. He looks up to government for everything. That is where government must also come and provide
Yes.
basic amenities. Because it's not about whether I'm employed or not. If I have social security, if I have good transportation, there's access to accommodation, basic things of life. Even if I'm jobless, as they have over there, you won't be so under pressure to go into crime. And that is one thing. And then our values must change. Societal values, we have not been able to place a value right in this country. We still worship wealth. We still worship materialism. That is how our young boy, like I said in some other forum, a young boy of 18 years, like I told somebody, when I was young, as an 18-year-old boy, I was content with stealing my elder brother's car, or stealing the coats. I go to Jari, home about my friends, I'm driving my dad's car. Even, I cannot even fuel it. But a young man of 20 years, 18 years now, he said, big man, if he has bought a car of 30 million. That's the definition of a big man. He's got 4 cars at home, but those cars, what's happening around now? This ritual, goes to ritual, because he wants to drive a car of 15 million. That is just the definition of being a big boy. Not even driving his father's Benz or his father's whatever car.
Not building an estate.
No. So that is a
Dr.
value.
Job, I want to thank you for your contributions. Just your party words, Mr. Isaac Irabor, just your party words.
Well, more, I think INEC which is also not only saddled with conducting elections, but also voter education. Because they should up in their voter education, talk about these values. And what is important is freedom. And freedom not only to associate, but also to pursue happiness. It's a very major thing.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Isaac Irabor.
Okay.
Thank you for time. Just a parting words, Comrade Godwin Ira. Just parting words.
Well, first, I appeal to fellow Nigerians to be patriotic.
Yes.
And this country, this is ours. We have nowhere else. Let us not say that because we want something which we have not been able to get, we must destroy the system.
Thank you. Andrew, parting words.
I will appeal to Nigerians not to be greedy and to be contented. And Nigeria as a country, our government should try and make our.
Thank you very much. Dr. Job, your parting words.
I want to appeal to government, fulfill your promises, give a level playground for elections, and give us security so we can go back to our lives.
Well, the United States has also said that the world is looking at Nigeria, watching Nigeria, expecting a credible election from Nigeria. Okay, gentlemen, thanks for being a part of today's program. Viewer out there, I hope you have enjoyed the contribution of our guests on the show. We've been able to touch different issues. We hope for the best for Nigeria. But next week, we'll be here again, by God's grace, to look at other national issues. My name is Ego Sagmala. Until then, have a very wonderful weekend ahead. Bye-bye.